Hello and a very warm welcome. We are looking at General Awareness Class Assignment 4, and here we are covering world bodies. Now, there's a segment in your assignment that is dealing with world bodies and public sector undertakings. Now, always remember whenever you have problems, right, you usually go to your friends or you consult your parents, right? You have a proper deliberation also at times if you have to take a decision for which course to opt, which coaching to go for, right? So essentially, similar problems are faced by countries also, and therefore, you've got these international bodies. Particularly, these world bodies are very important, and United Nations is the most important fulcrum, right? And United Nations was formed after there was this terrible World War II, which had literally ruined the entire world. There were so many nations ruined all over. Some were connected directly, some were connected indirectly. For example, Indians were there who were fighting, right? So India was affected indirectly in the Second World War. So that is how we have these world bodies coming together. For example, we've got this association called BRICS, which India is a part of. So this is an association which is of developing countries which can strengthen their pace of development by making sure that they try to synergize. That means they try to work together. And probably if I will take 5 years to do it myself, I might as well take your help, and both of us coming together can reach the goal in far much shorter span of time. So whenever we talk about world bodies, public sector undertakings in India, there are very important questions that come directly. So you need to be aware about these questions, right? In world bodies like the United Nations, the ASEAN, the SAARC, the BRICS, the G7, the G8, the G20, these are some important details that you need to definitely remember, okay? Without further ado, let's just quickly get into the questions. The first question that you have: which of the following was the first to be established? Now, when you talk about the United Nations, this was established on the 24th of October 1945, after the World War II had literally ruined so many nations, right? And therefore, you've got 24th October celebrated as the United Nations Day, right? And remember, 2020 will mark the 75th anniversary of United Nations, right? So year 2020 will actually mark the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, right? Let's just see how COVID spans out, but otherwise it will mark the 20th anniversary. So you've got the United Nations, which was in 1945. You've got the non-aligned movement. So this is when the entire world was actually divided between two important groups. There was a Cold War taking place between the USA, that's the United States of America bloc, and the USSR, that's the Soviet Union, the current Russia that you have. So that was a non-aligned movement. You've got the NAM, which was set up in 1961. India was a pioneering nation. India said, nothing doing, we're not supporting anyone, because it never wanted to side either America or Russia, because both were equally important. League of Nations is the correct answer here, because this was set up in 1920. BRICS is fairly new. This was in 2006. So the United Nations 1945, NAM 1961, League of Nations 1920, and BRICS 2006. So automatically you can, if you do your math correctly, if you put the numbers in ascending or descending orders, you'll come to know that the League of Nations is the first to be established. So can you just see, they can give you these questions where none of the bodies have any correlation, but you need to know their date of formation, their date of starting operation, who's the current chairman, president, or which country would they have that summit in. These are all important things that you need to be aware about. Important headquarters, right? So in 1945, nations were completely ruined. Second World War was over, and the world actually wanted peace. That's when you have the United Nations coming into picture. And the United Nations is the biggest and the most trusted international organization currently, right? This was set up right after the Second World War, and it was basically looking at the entire idea of peace in the world. It wanted to promote peace in the entire world, right? So this is is something that you need to remember. Peace, cooperation among nations, so that a third world war never comes up, right? Well, at that particular point in time, you need to remember that was formed with countries coming in, and there are 193 members currently, which are a part of the United Nations. That's literally most of the countries. India was, of course, one of the founder countries of the United Nations, right? And currently, India is aspiring to get a permanent membership in the Security Council of the United Nations. Currently, India is not a part of the permanent members team in the Security Council of United Nations. The five permanent members are China, UK, USA, France, and Russia. Okay, and you need to remember this point that fiscally India is one of United Nations biggest contributors. We contribute in in terms of being a developing country, we still contribute immensely, the most that we can. Okay, so you need to remember all these points, that we are looking, we are vying, we literally want to get, and the Indian government has been making important, they have been taking these important steps to get permanent membership of the Security Council of the United Nations. Okay. Now, there are other important international bodies also. Before we go to the next question, you've got the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. You get many questions from these two organizations also. The IMF, that's the International Monetary Fund. This was created in 1945 in Washington, D.C. And when you talk about IMF, or the World Bank is an amalgamation of five important companies coming together. We'll speak of five important associations coming together. We'll talk about them also in a question. And both these important international bodies have got an aim of ensuring that there is economic cooperation in the world. There is economic cooperation in the world. Right? IMF is providing support to the countries which require the monetary support, right? And it keeps on getting contributions. Whereas when you talk about the World Bank is having the entire dream to eradicate poverty. They want to eradicate extreme poverty. So when you talk about the World Bank is having this entire objective of making sure that the world is poverty free. That's their main objective, right? And therefore you will see that they literally contribute a lot to they really contribute a lot in the underdeveloped countries, and particularly in initiatives like building schools, hospitals, sanitations, right? The World Trade Organization, this is a fairly new organization, the WTO. This is an intergovernmental organization that was established by the Marrakesh Agreement. This is important. The Marrakesh Agreement on the 15th of April 1994. Okay, this is basically for trade negotiations, as the word itself suggests. If you look at the word World Trade Organization, so that the world can come together and ensure that they are trading together. So this is for trading negotiations, basically. BRICS, of course, it's very recently founded in 2006. These are five important countries: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa coming together, because these are developing countries, right? These are developing countries. So India is a developing country, and similarly Brazil, Russia, China, South Africa are equally a part of this association. So BRICS is the acronym for these countries together, and they want to protect their economic rights and interests in the global economy. They're coming together, right? And of course, these countries' total contribution to the global economy is almost 41%, which is like a huge amount. Five countries giving the world 41% of the global economy. That's a huge percentage. BRICS summits are there. You get questions from BRICS summits. You need to be aware about them. Moving on to the second question from the assignment. Where is the headquarters of the United Nations? Don't worry, we'll cover most of these important international bodies also. But for the moment, focus on the questions also, because this will set a base. This will build an interest for you. And these are some questions that you will see directly coming in your papers also. Where is the headquarters of the United Nations? The United Nations headquarters in New York. So New York is the correct answer. The United Nations is headquartered in the New York City. All right. So you can remember this. Which of the following is a cultural organization? Now, please remember UNESCO. UNESCO was founded in 1945. This is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Education ESCO, Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. This is based in Paris, France, right? And you need to remember that this is a cultural organization. This is a cultural organization, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. The name itself has cultural organization, CO. Okay, it was founded in 1945. The World Health Organization, International Labour Organization, and FAO, these are not cultural in nature. FAO is also important. When you talk about FAO, the main objective of FAO is Fight Panis. Fight Panis is let there be bread for everyone. This is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, right? So the Food and Agriculture Organization of United Nations. This is a special agency of the UN that is trying to defeat hunger. And the motto is let there be bread. Let there be bread is Fight Panis. That means you literally need to fight hunger. You need to fight hunger. Let there be bread. Let there be no person who's hungry, right? So let there be bread or Fight Panis, right? It's also a member of the United Nations Development Group. So that's your FAO, right? Food Agricultural Organization. It wants to fight hunger. Which of the following is not associated with the UNO? The United Nations Organization has International Labour Organization, ILO, International Labour Organization, WHO, World Health Organization, but third option is not a part of United Nations Organization. This is your Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, that's Asian. India is not a member of ASEAN. There are 11 countries, but India is not a member of Asian country. Why? Because India is not in Southeast Asia. Right? You need to remember this, okay? So it's an association of Southeast Asian nations, right? Like Malaysia, etc. So India is not a part of that territory, okay? So you need to remember this. So the ASEAN is not associated with UNO, and ASEAN's headquarters is in Jakarta, Indonesia. ASEAN's headquarters is in Jakarta, Indonesia. Remember that, okay? So the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, this is a regional intergovernmental organization, right? And these members which are there, they're all part of Southeast Asia. India is not a member. Please remember that, okay? So these are the Asian countries that you have. You've got Burma, you've got Brunei, you've got Cambodia, Timor-Leste, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, right? So these are the countries which are a part of your Asian countries, right? Which of the following was formed by the amalgamation of 5 financial institutes, namely IBRD, IFC, IDA, MIGA, and ICSID? This is the World Bank. World Bank has the entire motto of defeating poverty, extreme poverty, fighting against extreme poverty. Okay, remember that. So which of the following was formed by the amalgamation of 5 financial institutes? So that is the World Bank. That is the World Bank. Please remember, World Bank is the correct answer. The goal of World Bank is to end extreme poverty. So the ICSID, along with the IBRD, that's your International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, along with IDA, International Development Association, along with IFC, International Finance Corporation, and MIGA, Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency. So all these 5 come together to form the World Bank Group. They come together to form the World Bank Group. And the goal is to end extreme poverty, right? And they're all these 5 organizations. So please remember, World Bank is an amalgamation. It's a coming together of these 5 important organizations, the IBRD, the IDA, the IFC, as well as the ICSID. Okay, they are important, and you need to remember that World Bank is an amalgamation. All these organizations have their own functions, but ultimate goal of World Bank is to end extreme poverty. Which country among the following does not hold the veto power in the Security Council of United Nations? India is the correct answer. As I told you at the beginning also of this session, that India is a country which is still vying for getting permanent membership. Only permanent members have the veto power. Okay, only permanent members have the veto power. So India is the correct answer. The United Nations Security Council veto power, this refers to the power of the five permanent members such as China, Russia, France, United Kingdom, and the US. What is the expansion of E in OPEC? OPEC is standing for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, right? So Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So E is standing for exporting, fourth, exporting. Remember we looked at dinar, Kuwaitian dinar, Bahraini dinar, Oman's currency and Jordan's currency being higher than the British pound sterling. So remember, these are all oil exporting, these are all countries which are having petroleum exports, right? So this is basically OPEC is standing for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, this is an intergovernmental organization of 14 nations, which was founded on the 14th September 1960 in Baghdad, right? Which of the following countries was admitted in G7, converting it into G8? Okay, now earlier it was basically G6, all right? So like I told you, if you have problems, you go, you meet your friends, you meet your parents, right? You're forming a group together. Similarly, nations also do that, right? So earlier there were only G6 countries, then Canada came together and it was G7. And then later Russia also joined in and it became G8, right? Now after that, what happened? Russia was expelled, making it again G7, all right? So you need to remember Russia is the correct answer. Russia was admitted, converting G7 into G8, So G7 was standing for a group of 7 countries which were industrialized nations, right? And the group became G8, or the group of 8. But remember, Russia was excluded later. Russia was excluded because it had annexed Crimea from Ukraine. Why was the G7 created? This was created for annual gathering of political leaders to discuss and exchange ideas, right? They're coming together because they were industrialized. France, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, United States, and West Germany were there. And later Canada joined, and after that Russia joined. But the question was, how did G7 become G8? So G7 became G8 with Russia coming into picture, and then Russia was excluded later, and G6 became G7 because Canada was added. Okay, Canada joined. What do we mean by Interpol? Interpol is your International Criminal Police Organization. International Criminal Police Organization. This is Interpol. This is for ensuring that there's proper agility when you talk about the reporting of crimes, right? So this is the International Criminal Police Organization. This is an association of over 100 national police forces who are looking at fighting international crime. Okay, so Interpol, International Criminal Police Organization. International Criminal Police Organization. BRICS. Now, if you read this question, this is a very simple question, and we've discussed this also. BRICS, which was formed in 2006, this is an association of 5 major emerging national economies. Option 3. Very simple question. You should have got this right, right? It's an association of 5 major emerging national economies, okay? If there are any doubts which you're facing, please make sure that you make a note of it and you get back to us with your doubts, all right? The next G20 summit will be held at, the next G20 summit, that's the 2020 summit, will be in Riyadh. So none of these is the correct answer. And next year, it'll be in Italy, all right? God knows how will that be possible. Of course, the disaster, the COVID disaster will obviously get better in the coming times. So the next G20 summit this year will be in Riyadh. So none of these is the correct answer. The 2020 G20 summit, this is basically G20, group of 20 countries, 20 nations, will be in Riyadh summit, will be a Riyadh summit. This will be the 15th meeting of the G20 group, right? And the date currently is 21 to 22nd November 2020. Riyadh is the capital of Saudi Arabia. India is not a part of which of the following association? India is not a part of the Asian countries. Asian is standing for Association of Southeast Asian Nations. India is not a part of it, right? But India is a part of BRICS. India is one of the founding members of the United Nations. India is included in SAARC, that's your South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. India is a part of SAARC, but India is not a part of Asian. So fourth answer is the correct answer. India is not a part of the Asian. India is not a part of the Asian. You need to remember that. So India is not a member of Asian, as it is the Southeast Asian Countries Organization, right? So you need to remember this. Where is the headquarters of ADB, Asian Development Bank, located? This is in Philippines. So Asian Development Bank is having its headquarters in Philippines, Manila, Philippines, right? Philippines is the correct answer. The Asian Development Bank, this is a regional development bank which is having its headquarters in Philippines. Philippines, all right? Remember this. Which of the following countries is not a member of Asian? Now, even if you look at this question, we've said Asian is basically Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, right? Now, if you look at it, Canada is not an Asian country at all, right? So Canada will be the correct answer. Canada is not a member of Asian countries, right? So Canada is out of the question. Which of the following is not a Maharatna company? We'll of course look at these questions also when we revise them. But when you talk about, you've got Maharatna status being given to Gas Authority of India Limited, Coal India Limited, Steel Authority of India Limited. However, Airport Authority of India is a mini Ratna. Alright, this is not a Maharatna, it's a mini Ratna. Airport Authority of India is a mini Ratna. Please remember that. It's not a Maharatna, this is a mini Ratna. Okay, so here we particularly looked at your international bodies. We will discuss them in greater details also once when your live classes are starting. But what I want you to do now is set up a base when you're looking at it. I hope you know by now that the UN is important for you. I hope you know that Asian is important, BRICS is important, G20 is important, the summits that are taking place are important, right? So we'll of course discuss them in greater details from your exam point of view, but setting up this base is extremely crucial. Some of your entrances will just have these kind of questions, okay? So please make sure that you look at them. If there are any doubts that you face, do get back to us. We'd be more than happy to solve your doubts. Till then, thank you so much and happy learning.